Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your divorce survival guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back. And now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact. Hey everyone, welcome back. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful summer. I just turned in the final manuscript of my book, which will be coming out at the very end of December, early January. Man, I can't tell you what it's like to finish and to finally turn that in. It's been quite a ride. There is a lot more to come, but you all will be the first to know about all of it as it comes, as we launch, as we get into pre-sales and all of that stuff. You guys are going to be the first to know. The name of the book is The D Word, Making the Biggest Decision About Your Marriage. I think you guys get the general gist, right? So I will keep you posted on all the things, but I just wanted to let you know that I finished that. And so I've been breathing a little bit. Yay! Speaking of breathing, if you are overwhelmed by all of the podcast episodes I have and you want to get your curated podcast playlist, just make sure that you know and remember that you can go to my website. If you go to kateanthony.com/playlist, you can get your curated podcast playlist that will give you just sort of a short list of episodes that I think are most important for you at this juncture. So that'll be in the show notes as well. And you've probably heard me talk about it, but I just wanted to give it one more plug. So today I have with me Kimberly Cook. She is a divorce attorney, mediator, and the founder of Grown Girl Divorce, which is a divorce resource company specifically for Black women. Kimberly is known for successfully navigating complex financial and custody matters while helping her clients navigate their next steps forward. Her expertise and her unique ability to disseminate complex information in a relatable way has made her a sought-after divorce coach, speaker, and podcaster. She truly believes that everyone deserves to be in a healthy and happy relationship and is on a mission to educate and empower others to make that happen. Hello. I mean, we are super simpatico. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Kimberly Cook of Grown Girl Divorce. Kim, thanks so much for coming on to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast and sharing your wisdom with everybody.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get into this conversation. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So you wear so many hats. I love this. You're an attorney, you're a mediator, you're a coach. You are like all things expert divorce.
I am, the divorce professional. And when I tell people that, right, I think they look at me a little bit weird, like, what's wrong with you? But it just is the easy way to kind of say, right, that yes, I started my career as a litigator, right? So definitely a trial attorney and a divorce attorney, and then a mediator, divorce coach, and then legal consultant. So yeah, it's all of the things divorce and family related. So it's just, I find easier to say I'm a divorce professional. But again,
I say the same thing. Yeah, I say the same thing. But it's just easier, right?
Like, it's just easier.
Yeah, because otherwise I'm like, well, I'm a divorce coach, I'm a podcast host, I'm an advocate, I do, right?
Yes, yes.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm an advocate for family court reform. I'm a
right. And so then you feel like, I'm going through my whole kind of like CV. And I'm like, let's
Yeah.
just keep it simple. I
I'm
do
a
divorce.
professional.
There it is.
I do divorce all aspects of it. You're great. You're great. You have this great business and podcast about grown girl divorce, and you specifically focus on Black women
That's
because you
right.
say that divorce is not made for Black women, right? Or the family court system.
All right. So here's what I'll say. The easiest way, because a lot of people are like, wait, isn't divorce the same regardless of race, ethnicity, and gender? And the way I break things out is as simple as following. Yes, arguably the divorce process, right? Divorce process. And again, I say arguably because that's the litigator in me coming out. We can all argue 6 ways to Sunday whether or not the law is fair and the like. But let's just, for purpose of this conversation, say that arguably process is the same. But what is different is the divorce experience, right? And so the divorce experience, you experiencing divorce as a woman, or you experience divorce as a Black woman, or as someone who is trans, or as a male, whatever, your divorce experience is going to be different. And so grown girl divorce comes from a space of saying, we are here to educate and empower Black women and women of color who are going through the experience of divorce. So that's the distinction, because again, the experience of navigating cultural constraints, societal stigmas, misunderstandings as, a Black woman or a woman of color is different as a part of the overall experience. So that's why we've created Grown Girl Divorce. It's a space of relatability. That's what it is.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, we live in a country, in a society that is systemically has a lot of biases and racism and white supremacy woven into it.
Sure.
So and then we've got the court system that is overwhelmingly dominated by white men.
Yep.
So I can imagine it would be a very different experience.
It's a different experience, but here's what's interesting. I often talk to women who are Muslim, or women who are Jewish, or women who are affluent, and when you have kind of this idea that the divorce experience is cookie cutter for all, what happens is that people feel silenced. They don't feel seen or heard. And so in many ways, right, regardless of whether you are, Black, white, Asian, South Asian, there is a need for having this, somebody gets what I'm going through without me even having to say something. It's the reason we have women's support groups, right? We need as women each other. And so it's the same sense for Grown Girl Divorce, where it was, you know what, Black women get divorced too. And while you might live in an area or community where nobody looks like you, or nobody in your extended family has gone through a divorce, because culturally it's not something we talk about, this is the community, this is a village where we're here, we're out here together, navigating not just the process, but the experience.
So let me just sort of back up a minute. So why did you start Grown Girl Divorce? I mean, here you were a litigator, you were in family law, you're a mediator, and how did this come to be? And how long has it been in existence?
So it came to be because of my girlfriends, right? So there hit a point in time, and I will say, age-wise, where here we were all, well into marriage, families, professionals. And I started to get a lot of these, Kim, can we talk? And, there was a tone to it, right? There's a tone.
I know,
right?
the tone. I know the tone. Yeah.
And so, and I started to kind of really say to myself, gosh, I do divorce. This is what I do. But I never really sat and looked into kind of, on behalf of, say, my clients, what divorce support or resources were really out there, right? Like I refer people to therapists or divorce coaches but there's a thing when you're a lawyer is you stay in your lane, right? I'm going to give you a referral, but I'm here to do this piece of it. And so I started Grown Girl Divorce because I recognized that my girlfriends had me, right? They had me. And I know that there were other women out there who just needed a safe space to be who they were, to really kind of feel like there are questions that I don't feel like are being answered. I'm worried about coming off as the angry Black woman, or I'm worried about, being the only one in my family who has ever gotten divorced and what that feels like. I want a space for me. And so Grown Girl Divorce started as a podcast to really kind of educate and empower professional Black women who are going through this. And it just kind of gave us a space that gave voice to the process. How long has it been in existence? Well, here's the funny thing. So certainly I've been doing divorce a long time. And it has been, I'd say, in infancy stages, really leading up to 2020. And then 2020 hit. And the phone calls kept coming. And there was a need that really became very apparent that was, okay, we got to get out here. We need to start kind of answering questions and highlighting other experts of color. It's time. And so I would say 2020 is really when the podcast started to consistently kind of come into fruition. And now it has since expanded into providing other support resources through the website, through, events and support groups. And so I would say 2020 was really when it was like, all right, we got to get serious.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I imagine that was a sort of a combo of the divorce rate rising so drastically when we were in lockdown, on top of George Floyd and all of the
Everything.
racial stuff that was coming up, right? Like it had to have been both of those things sort of colliding in your world.
I would say it's a perfect storm, right? So it's, people are at their wits' end because everybody's in the house. Here I am, a lawyer, recognizing and seeing that our legal system has come to a complete standstill, right? Totally. And so you have people in crisis because they're trying to navigate a very difficult process that's not moving. And then you have certainly, again, everything that's happening in communities across the country. And so it really became apparent where it was, we've got to have an outlet. There has to be given voice in a community. And oh, by the way, here we also then had statistics that are telling us that divorce or Black women have a higher divorce rate than a marriage rate. And it was like, wait a minute, what's happening here? And where are we in terms of giving voice to what's happening as a part of our experience? And therein lies, all right, let's chat, right? Let's have some conversations with some girlfriends who know what they're talking about, right? And so that's really kind of been the way we've moved it, and then added in later personal stories, because it's nice to hear. And I know that sounds kind of off-putting, but when you're going through something, right? Yeah. Being able to hear somebody else in their real life experience of, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Hey, I've been there too. I know what you're going through. It's a game changer for people. And so for many of our listeners, it really has been the opportunity to really kind of connect with somebody that they've never met, who they will never know because it's anonymous, but to feel in some way connected because they feel like, somebody knows what it's like to go through this that I'm going through. I will be okay. And if that helps one woman, done. Check done for me, really.
Well, and I'm sure it helps thousands. So, that's great. It really
We're trying.
is. Yeah, I know. Aren't we? We're all trying.
We're all trying.
All trying.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the divorce rate for Black women is higher than the marriage rate.
That's right.
Can you sort of say more about that? Do you
Sure.
have sort of the
stats,
the 411 on that? And
yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, so when we know that we have 31% divorce rate, we're in a 17% marriage rate, and it's troubling. But now here's the deal with statistics. And I tell people all the time, you've got to unpack things a little bit. It's just like when people, talk about divorce rates in general, you have to kind of unpack, is it first time divorces? Is that adding in second times? But going to this statistics, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One, oftentimes that includes single mothers who have never been married, right? So when you look at overall kind of marriage rates, they haven't been able to break out. So when we look at a 17% kind of a marriage rate, you're polling, right, women who may be mothers, but were never married. And then we look at, okay, now we also have a divorce rate, and same kind of thing. We can't break that down between first-time divorces or second-time divorces. Nonetheless, the numbers don't lie, meaning that there is something happening. And what is, I think, happening is a couple of things. One, Black women as a whole have been outpacing men, and particularly Black men, in terms of higher education, in terms of career and professional development, which, don't get me wrong, it's amazing. That's great. And listen, as somebody who is married and married to a Black male, I am not knocking Black men by any stretch of the imagination. But what I am saying is that when you're looking at, times have changed where women don't feel like they have to get married to be able to support themselves or their children. And this, I would say, generation more so than prior generations, where they're very much like, I got this, right?
Right. If I'm going to partner with you, you better be bringing something worthwhile to the table.
That's right.
Because it's not like I don't need you.
I don't need you.
So do I want you?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Exactly. Okay. So that's a big thing, which is very different, and certainly culturally speaking, that's really different, because for many generations, right, Black women had to be married in order to even be seen, to even have the ability to vote or to buy land, or to, they had to be attached to a Black man who barely had his own kind of rights and standing. But to be a single Black woman just wasn't going to happen. And so now we've moved in a different direction where women are like, yeah, I'm good. You're not doing anything for me, sir. Thanks. Right. So you have that. And then secondly, you also have a real movement towards recognizing that we each deserve to be in happy and healthy relationships. And so as a community, there is really, I think, a real kind of move towards saying there's no shame associated with me kind of ending my marriage. That's right. Despite what, generations have said before, right? You stay married, you just kind of power through it, or you just separate and nobody talks about it. And so I think what we're seeing is really just kind of hey, you don't have to be married if you don't want to be. You can do this and be happy. Or if you find yourself in a marriage that is not happy or not healthy for you, you don't have to stick it out. And that's okay. And I think that's what's happening. I think the numbers are reflecting a bit of that, but certainly on really kind of leaning really strong on I really am okay. I don't need marriage to validate me or to kind of push me to the next level. And so as a whole, that's where we get the statistics from.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I see that, I think the stats right now for remarriage overall is that it's something like 65% or 69% of divorced women are like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to do it again because this doesn't benefit me. In fact, this entire thing relies on my labor. So why am I going to opt into that?
So what am I doing? That's right.
Yeah.
I think just women in general are being a lot more analytical and asking questions and really kind of coming to the table saying, all right, here's what I'm looking for, right?
Yeah,
and if you're not able to meet these needs in the way that, might ask, okay, it's fine, right? And so I think we are really moving towards where talk about female empowerment, where I think we really are coming into our own and being able to say, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. Thanks. I'm good.
And I think the other thing that adds to that is that now we've also got the research that shows that marriage doesn't completely fuck up children. I mean, divorce
does not. Yes.
That divorce doesn't completely screw up our kids.
Yep.
And that actually being in an unhealthy and unhappy marriage does more damage to them than leaving. Right. And so now that we have that broader understanding, which I still have to educate women on every single day. Every day, right?
Yes.
We're a little freer.
Yes. It's still, I will say, Kate, that's the one thing that I think is the hardest for many women to kind of grapple with, right? I think it's the society has said you have to be married in order for your children to be successful. And this is what it looks like, even though it's a dumpster fire in your house, right? If you're married,
as long as you're married, it's fine.
That's right. And so now, right now, I think we're all like, all right, listen, no knock to the therapists who are doing very well, but I think many of us would not need therapy, but for the fact that our parents hadn't stayed in these crazy toxic marriages for so long.
Hello.
And therefore, so I think the writing is now on the wall that yes, that we are becoming more comfortable in saying, look, this isn't working out. We are actually modeling terrible behavior for our children.
Yeah. Terrible relationship models. The relationship models are this is not what we want for them.
This is not what we want for them at all. Right. And so I do agree that I think, people are feeling a lot more comfortable now saying, yeah, you know what, I'm okay. And my kids will be okay because they will see that I'm okay. And
I'm okay. That's right.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
And I think, some of the resistance, right, is that, knowing that divorce isn't the thing that, doesn't screw up our kids, but toxicity, can.
Yes.
And that if you have a healthy, collaborative divorce, the kids are going to get through it really well.
That's right.
But you only have control over one person in that process, right? And so if my ex is going to drag me through the mud and actually make this toxic,
yes,
then should I stay?
So, it's one of those things where you think about, all right, what do I do here when I know that staying, what that looks like, right? I know what staying looks like. I've been able to navigate that process. I know how to make things work, right? As toxic as they are, but I can make them work. If I leave and I'm dealing with a nut who is going to amp up all of the drama, amp up the kooky, and make everything 3 times worse? Is it worth it? And, I say to clients often, we always want to consider our safety first. That's first and foremost, right? But here's the reality. The reality of it is, at some point, you trying to navigate staying in this relationship is untenable. And so even though leaving on the front end is going to be difficult or can be a challenge, right? Staying is often even worse because, again, what we're modeling to our children is more than just, okay, I'm being strong because I'm trying to protect you, child, from, what I know may happen if your parents get divorced. But what we're saying in many ways is, I don't deserve to be treated with respect. I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve to live a life free of fear. And we are showing our children that they too, in many ways, either should tolerate certain behaviors because they've seen you tolerate that, or that it's okay to act in that way because somebody else similar to you will just tolerate it. And so it really is a real proverbial catch-22. Do I leave or do I go? You got to be safe, but chances are it's better to leave and have people help you to leave than to stay, and in the idea of it's just safer and easier if I just stay in this space. Yeah. But make no mistake, it's, it is hard.
And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Whenever I hear about a protective mom struggling to co-parent with an ex whose alcohol misuse endangers the child, I always recommend SoberLink. If you've been listening for a while, you know how much I love SoberLink. For those of you who are new, welcome and listen up. SoberLink is an alcohol monitoring system that is the most convenient, reliable, and reasonable way for a parent to provide concrete proof that they're not drinking during parenting time. SoberLink uses facial recognition, and it's the only alcohol monitoring system that analyzes and approves or declines identity in real time, meaning that you'll be immediately notified if your co-parent attempts to have someone else use the device. SoberLink also has some of the most high-tech tamper-resistant features on the market, which prevents tampering with the device itself or trying to use alternate air sources like a balloon or an air pump. So basically, any way someone can think of to cheat the system, SoberLink can catch. If someone tests positive for alcohol, SoberLink requires additional tests to confirm the non-compliant results. If a positive test happens, the system's retest cycle begins, allowing the co-parent to retest every 15 minutes, up to 6 times. Upon request from their in-house compliance department, a drinking evaluation is delivered to you to confirm the non-compliant result. SoberLink has 2 programs. There's a parenting time only program, and then there's a daily testing program. Both programs operate using scheduled testing. So for example, a testing schedule might be that you ask the co-parent to test before their parenting time and then during parenting time. And this helps you feel confident that your co-parent is parenting sober. And if there is a positive test result, you can write into your agreement that parenting time will be reevaluated. SoberLink's reports are admissible in court. And in fact, SoberLink is recommended by courts in all 50 states and in Canada. If you have any concerns about your child's safety while with the other parent, there is no better way than SoberLink to put your mind at ease. For an exclusive $50 off of your device and to download the resource I created with SoberLink, Checklist for a High Conflict Divorce, visit www.soberlink.com/DSG. And now back to our show. One of the things that you pointed to is that there's like shorter term hard. And look, that could be 5 years, right? It really could.
Yes.
Because the family law system moves at a snail's pace, because if your soon to be ex is an abusive or vexatious litigant, you're going to be in it for a long ass time.
Yes, you are.
But that's better than your lifetime.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Or the 18 years, right? And we know what I'm referencing. We're talking about, I'm going to stay until the kids are out of the house.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a long time. That's a long time. Unless
your kids,
yeah, right. Exactly.
If your kid's 3, it's a long ass time.
It's a long time. Unless your kid is 2 days away from turning 18. No. Because as you've said, the process in and of itself could take you 5 years. And that's real talk, right? It could take, and so waiting and saying, okay, well, I'll start the process when they're 16 or 17. No, thank you. You've got a 3-year-old or you have a 5-year-old. No, don't do it. It's right. Not worth it for you, for them. It's not. And I'll just say that, look, we know that people stay because of a variety of reasons. And some of those reasons have a lot to do with your own kind of background, your own upbringing, the things that you experience in terms of relationships, your comfort. And then it has now manifested in my parents stayed together for 40 years, happy or unhappy. Or, everybody I knew was divorced and I didn't want that. And so I'm going to stick this out. Or it's, my community or my culture tells me that, this is not what you do. And so I don't want to bring shame to my family because of that. And those are things that we all have to kind of reckon with and unpack. And that's why, though, it's important to get kind of the help and to talk to people, to, listen to Divorce Survival Guide, right? So that you can get these questions kind of answered, and knowing that you're not the only one who's facing these very difficult, challenges that lie ahead in making the decision to proceed with a divorce, because it sucks. It does.
Yeah, it does. It does. And the cultural aspect of it can be so difficult and very real. I've worked with women who are from very, very strict Muslim communities, and that leaving their abuser actually meant being shunned from their entire community, including their children.
Yes.
Right. And that, when your life is so, it is so terrible that you're willing to walk away from your kids because you don't feel that you have a choice. Right. But you're walking up to that line and maybe you're not going to cross it. Right.
That's right. I think in various cultures, right, there's that same kind of concern because you have, especially if you've got a religious kind of a tie to it, right? So, you could be Hasidic Jew, you could be Muslim, you can be Pentecostal, and it's the intertwining of me leaving and what that means for not just me, but for my children.
Right.
In many ways keeps people from leaving. But here is what I know to be true. It takes one person to do it, because I can promise you there's other women in your group, in your community, who are sitting on ready, right? They're there, but haven't been able to, or try to, or thinking about it. How do I know this? Because I've represented them, because I've coached them, and inevitably, one, it's like a domino effect.
Absolutely.
Then their girlfriend is calling saying, I was inspired. This is what I needed. I saw that she was able to do it, and now I can do it. I saw that, it was terrible and we were kind of cut off from her. But the fact that she kept pushing and going and doing, I now have the ability to live the life that I deserve. And so I say that because I think it's really important to know that maybe you've tried and maybe you haven't yet crossed the line, but there's somebody else who's kind of waiting on you, right? Or you're waiting on somebody else.
Yeah.
And you know, it just takes one person to say, enough already. This has to happen, as hard as it may be. But we do know those cultural ties, that's a hard one. It is hard.
Yeah. But I think you're so right. You make such a good point about this because, you think about it, just, my own divorce, right? There's always like the first person in the friend group, right? Yep. And it was like, is this contagious? Like, what the hell is happening? Because like one person goes and then you're holding up a mirror to everybody else's relationship.
Yes.
And suddenly they're looking in it and they're like, oh. Right. And if she left, what does that say about me and my marriage? Yes. Like I can go, right? And even in I don't have any cultural or religious ties in that way, right? And so the same thing is so true in these more oppressive, dominant, patriarchal, communities, because one woman, because it's let's be honest, one woman gets out and creates freedom and a life for herself and shows that there's a possibility of that on the other side. And there's like 10 women behind the curtain going, right?
Wait a minute. Yeah.
She made all that for herself. Okay. And what I also say is that there is always, maybe not always, but usually I think, another church, another mosque, another temple. There is usually another place that you can go that is more progressive and less demeaning and oppressive. So you don't have to give up your religion, right? If you are Muslim and this is like very integral to who you are, there's a mosque that is more progressive for you.
Yes, there is now, which is great because
there is now.
Well, I mean, and this is why it's important to have kind of, I'd say, these conversations and to shine light and for people to see things because right. The idea that certainly the idea of getting divorced in many ways, right, is very divisive. Whether that's culturally speaking, whether that's religious, whether that's, your own kind of, Stepford wife community, it doesn't matter, right? The idea that, you're breaking away from the mold, right? And you're going to be okay. There now are other communities that are saying, this is good. This is fine. You're okay. And I think having that helps everybody, which is a great thing. But, to be fair, I think that comes from people such as yourself, Kate, kind of coming out and saying, hey, you know what? This ship didn't sink. I'm standing. I'm doing just fine. You two will be okay. Right.
That's right. That's right.
It's
right. Yeah. We have those more progressive models because somebody stepped out. The radical, conservative one. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And I think the more we have conversations, the more that people see themselves in spaces where they're like, oh, wait, you did it. I can do it. And it's okay. That then is why, I know people get exhausted by the phrase of, saying things like representation matters. But when we say things like representation matters, it means, hey, you know what? I can be vice president because I've seen a female do it, or secretary of state because I've seen a female do it. Hey, I can be divorced because, you know what? Despite the fact that my very conservative, Baptist church is anti-divorce and we don't talk about it, I've now seen this person do it.
Mm-hmm.
That is why spaces like Grown Girl exist, because we didn't, in large part, have the visibility in these conversations in saying, we're out here, right? And it's okay knowing that as a community and as a village, that there are people who have been through where you are, and therefore you too can be okay as you navigate this process. That's why these things are important.
It's so true. And representation does matter.
It does.
It does. I mean, right. You see a group of empowered, strong Black women say, it's okay, we've got you, and you can do it. Like, how much, we, and you brought up the village, right? Our strength is a collective, right?
Absolutely.
And women are meant to be in a collective. That is our primal nature.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
And, we're not meant to be doing this shit alone in single family homes behind, white picket fences and all of that shit. We're meant to be together.
So somewhere along the way, right, we lost sight of the, it takes a village, right? So it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to, come together and make things happen, right? Whether that's anything from, voting rights to, making sure that somebody is picking up all the neighborhood kids. Somewhere along the way, we have taken on this, I can do it all by myself, right? And listen,
all I have to do is lean in.
That's right. That's it. That's it, right? I don't need help, right? And look, make no mistake, I'm all about you put your big girl panties on and you keep it moving. I get that. However, right, we know that there's strength in numbers, there's strength in community, and doing things together makes, it all better, but it makes life worth, I think, living. It enhances your own experience, but it truly is a reminder that you're not alone, not just in challenging times, but in great times as well. And so I do think that we really have to get back to these spaces of saying, we are in this all together, regardless of whatever stage and craziness that life transitions are throwing at me. Where I've got a village behind me to help me, and pick me up and support me in whatever way makes the most sense. And I think we will all be okay if we start to really allow that to really be true for our lives, that, we're not meant to do this alone. And it's not fun to do it alone.
It's not. And the other thing that I'll add to it is this idea that we were meant to do it alone, or that we're strong enough to do it alone, or we're resilient enough to do it alone, is actually a message of the system that's actually trying to keep us alone, compliant and exhausted. Alone. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Like all that messaging is patriarchal. All of it. Right? Yes. And so our women's yearning for community and to be together, like that's the power.
That is the power.
And that is the shit that they've been trying to keep down because, that's because that's where our strength is, and they don't like our strength.
Well, but think of it this way, right? Clients will say, or, I'm in mediation and someone will say, well, my spouse says I don't have to talk to anybody, or I don't, I don't need the divorce coach, or I don't need to hire my own lawyer, or and I'm often like, and why is that, right? Why don't you need anybody else, right? And it goes to this idea of, as long as I can keep you isolated, as long as I can kind of control the narrative,
Lord
right?
have mercy. Yep, that's
Right.
right.
Then it allows things to go in a direction by which the other person is controlling. And so on a larger scale, it's truly important to keep that in mind, because when we think about finding ourselves getting educated and learning about the process of divorce, or learning about what it means to, have a co-parenting relationship that is not toxic, right? The more we talk and collaborate and understand, the better. However, make no mistake, there is a push to shut down that information. There is a push to silence the information, as whether it's, oh, that's just people whining, or that's not needed, or it's not helpful, when in reality, it's about trying to silence the village and really stay in spaces of isolation. I'm not here for it.
I am not here for it either. And, to that point, when somebody says like, oh, you don't need, if they're trying to control the narrative, or if the only way that you can have a collaborative and non-toxic co-parenting relationship is for you to be quiet and compliant, that's a toxic relationship.
That's right.
So, and if the person is saying, like, oh, we just need to be a unified front. This took me years, right? My ex would say to me all the time, like, we need to present a unified front to our son about X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. And what he was really saying is, you need to get on board with what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes. That's right. That's right.
It took me about a decade to be able to go, I don't choose to unify with something I don't believe in.
Yes.
I am not going to unify with you on this because I don't agree with you on this. And when I said it that way, he was like,
oh, no.
Oh, okay. Like, it was like a radical concept, right?
Yes.
And it was, because for 10 years I've been like, okay, I guess I have to just shut my mouth and just
fall in line.
Or fall in line. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. The idea of, unified front, right, really is all about, listen, you unify because you fall in line behind where I'm at, right? So this is the message, and this is what we're kind of putting forth and putting out there, right? But it's the same thing can be said when you have we don't need additional help. We don't need, it's the two of us. We've got this. You don't need anybody else. I don't agree that anybody else can do pickup or drop off. I don't agree that, we can ever question who is involved in the ins and outs of what's happening. And listen, I'm not saying that everybody should know your business, because the part of marriage is the two of you being, on the same page and having and protecting that marital space. However, there's a difference between being silenced and falling in line and being truly excluded from your support in your village, and having the ability to say, you know what, I do have people around me who can help me see things clearly, or who can make sure that this is making sense when I can't see this for myself. And, unfortunately, not every village, not every support is the right support. And so we want to be mindful, right? That, we just talked about, some religious communities or some kind of cultural associations where you have to be able to say, actually, I got to break free from that too, because that in and of itself too is not helpful. So navigating all of these spaces is a challenge. And then you add in just dealing with the divorce process. I mean, it's a lot for any one person to go through. But I think that's why it's all the more important that we find and allow ourselves to be part of communities that really allow us to be who we are. And that we all are able to see ourselves, getting through challenging times because somebody else who has been through it is able to kind of say, you know what, you'll be fine because I was there too.
And we've got you.
Yeah, we've got you.
We've got you.
Yeah.
What a great
Good
conversation, Kim. I know. So where can everybody find you, Grown Girl Divorce, your podcast, all of the things? Where can people join you in community?
Yeah, thanks. So, certainly on the website, which is growngirldivorce.com. The podcast is available on all, podcast players, but you can certainly, check it out directly on the website as well. I'm on social media. I keep things easy. Everything is Grown Girl Divorce, right? So, there's not a ton of different tags. So you type in Grown Girl Divorce, you're going to find us. Please, we are trying to expand the community. We want to make sure that those who need the support get the support. And so, truly believe that sharing is caring and, we never know who needs it. So, share the information. All are welcome. But just, but know that this is creating a space of relatability for voices and the experience of Black women and women of color in this process. But
amazing. And so when you talk about the community itself, like, do you actually have a group? Do you have?
So we have support groups and we have coaching.
Okay.
We have, and our support groups are 3 different groups. So you have the before, during, and after support groups. And so you can get into one of the groups. If you go to the website, there's a waiting list. And so we have groups, and then we have both in-person and virtual events. And so if you go to the website, and the great thing about the events is that we try to do both educational and empowerment events. And so on the education side, of course, it's all things where you learn various things. There are various experts that come and do great kind of talking kind of presentations. And then empowerment. Sometimes you just want to feel good. Right? You just want to let your hair down and do some fun things.
I do.
And so, not all things are centered around, education. Sometimes you just need a good laugh or a good, massage. And so we also have empowerment groups. So definitely, checking out the website, keeping up with the website, is a great way to make sure that you're plugged into all of the great things that we have going on.
Amazing. growngirldivorce.com. Kimberly Cook, you are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.